Boom, 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 boom. What's going on, everyone? Talks to Kenny here today. Welcome to the live stream. So today I wanted to do a video on 10 reasons anyone should vote or could vote Republican, right? And this is coming out because of, it's been a funny news story kind of, right? Trump have a album out apparently, right? And there's articles out here that Democrats are losing ground with working class blacks and Latino voters. Trump's first day out. I might listen to it on stream. I don't know. I want to go into some of the politics of populism. Some of the reasons why I say, hey, here's one reason why you should vote Republican. And it's going to help make my point. And then we'll get into the meat of the stream, which is 10 reasons why blacks should leave the Democratic Party. And in reality, this can go for anybody. I'm not going to try to be race specific, but it's catered to the most loyal Democratic base for the Democratic Party, which seems to be black people, right? So let's go with the article here. This is like months ago, right? In August 6th, this article was made. But as you can see, in September 1st or August, towards the end of August, polls was coming out showing that Trump is gaining some support. And this article was made right before the fourth indictment, if I remember my dates correctly. And you can already see that a lot of the Democrats were scared about this, right? Why it matters. As Democrats has made major gains with suburban and upper middle class voters since Trump's political ascension, they have been losing support among blue collar workers. And this is true. The Democratic Party has kind of become the party of the elites in a way, right? Your elite latte, what they call it, limousine liberals is what Al Sharpton likes to play it. And I think they were always that way. I think Democrats were always the party of the elites. It's just some people pretend that they were part of the elites until, bad economy, high rates of crime, right? A lot, like people who are upper middle class or wealthy are kind of insulated from the negative policies of the Democratic Party, right? The most crime-ridden cities are in blue states. New York, San Francisco, Chicago. Those have high rates of crime. But the rich elite people who vote Democrat, they don't feel the consequences of defund the police or soft on crime policies of the Democratic Party. Now you see a bunch of black people, right, in Chicago, New York, all these sanctuary cities that wanted to virtue signal off of the border issue, right? And my argument has been, and this is something black conservatives have been always saying, liberals can only be liberals from afar. The minute you ask a liberal to put their money where their mouth is, next thing you know, they complain the same way that conservatives are complaining. To me, it always showed that conservatives were more real. They were more upfront about what they state and what they believe. Hey, we shouldn't be having open borders. Here's why. Liberals want to sit here and pretend that conservatives are hateful people, that we don't care about people at the border. No, we're pragmatic and we understand that, hey, we don't have the means to take care of these people in the border. And our economy is not set up to have low-skill work do well in this country. And that's a fact. We got homeless people, homeless Americans, homeless veterans on our streets. And you want us to take in more illegal immigrants? That's a recipe of disaster. And you see how in New York, they're complaining about how they got a $12 billion tax bill that they have to pay because they started taking in illegal immigrants. Now you have Los Angeles council members, politicians threatening to put the Texas governor in jail. They want to arrest Greg Abbott, because he's starting to filter some of the border, some of the migrants traffic into those sanctuary cities where, the liberals, this is my problem with the liberals. And this is why I think anyone should vote Republican, is that you have to understand the Democratic Party, they like to they fight for the little guy as a means to get votes. But in reality, right, when they want to virtue saying, oh, we're a sanctuary city, we want to show how good we are, when they're nowhere close to the border, there's no point of proclaiming yourself a sanctuary city. And then when the Republicans, red state cities, or states, I might add, decide to take you up on that offer and say, hey, we're going to send the migrants over there to you because that's where you want them, right? Now you complaining about the problem. Now you want to go and try to arrest Greg Abbott because he's taking you up on your offer. You're saying, hey, we want immigrants here. We want migrants here, right? Migrants built this country. We want them here. Sanctuary city. Border states that say we don't want immigrants here will say, hey, we'll oblige you. Here you go. Oh, we didn't mean it that way. Martha's Vineyard. forever will be sonified in my mind about the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party. In my view, the Democratic Party only cares about power, and they use the context of I'm helping the little guy to kind of justify their reaching for power, right? But you know, I digress. I don't know if I should do this on stream, but apparently there's a song out about Donald Trump, and I might listen to a little bit, just a little bit, because I don't want to distract too much. Here's another reason why you should vote not vote Republican, but conservatives, like I don't know, I just feel like it's more fun over here. We chilling, we listen to the first day out.
Well,
we listen to the first day out. Like, yo, come on. Like, when they say the left can't meme, this is what it means. Like, the left takes itself so seriously that it cannot take any humor against it. And I think this was making them kind of lose relatability in the future, right? But
Benny Johnson, Big Bongino, Alex Jones, free my dogs and lock up the radical left's gone crazy.
Oh my God.
I don't bail, I won't see inside a cell. Shout out Thugger, free my slime, slat, YSL. They tryna lock me up, but I'm plugged in ATL.
What the hell? Nah, bro, this man. Shout out to High Res. The ATL verse was hard. I ain't gonna lie. That was good.
Doing life in jail. They living in hell. These DAs acting silly. My mugshot is worth a billy. So some merchant made a milli.
So some merchant made a milli. Yo, everybody and their mom was making money off this, off that mugshot. But like, this is the kind of, you know, I ain't trying to play the whole thing, bro. But this is the kind of thing that like people, you know, on the right do. Like, we chilling, we're like, hey, look, we're gonna have fun with this one. We're gonna make our points. These are some of the reasons why. Because it seems like the Democratic Party, they don't want any criticism. They're not open to criticism. They're not open to debate, even with amongst their own side. You got RFK running against the Joe Biden, and they don't even want to have a debate. They just want to, hey, sit down and listen. And I don't know. This is a big problem. So I kind of wanted to go through, you know, some of the reasons why I think Trump is getting popular, right? And this is my main thing, because I know everyone's going to say, hey, you know, Republicans are spineless. Republicans are not perfect either. But in my case, I'm saying, hey, if the solution to fix this corruption is going to happen, it's going to come from the Republican Party because of populism. Populism has won in the Republican Party. That's why Trump is winning. No matter how many times Mitch McConnell and all these establishment donor class doesn't want it to be Trump, Trump's the guy. It's like, bruh, every time they indict this man, he gets more popular. And that's because of populism, grassroots movement. The people want him in there. That's populism. In the Democratic Party, you think populism is rising from the left? Hell no. The last time the left-wing populists had any noise is when AOC had an opportunity to do the same thing that the Freedom Caucus did to Kevin McCarthy. And what did the left-wing populists do? Fold. Got bought out by a corporate interest. To me, the only shot of this country changing in any meaningful way is coming from the Republican Party. That's one reason. That's a caveat reason for why you should vote Republican, or at least glance at it, you know? Because I've been getting a lot of comments about people saying that all I really do is like criticize the Democratic Party. I don't advocate much for the Republican Party or why people should vote Republican. And I said, oh, yeah, you're right. Maybe I should do more videos about why I support the Republican Party. But, you know, we're going to go through a quick 5-minute video about politics and populism to kind of ground my thoughts and showcase why Trump won, right? Not because we're some racist bigots. No. We like the policy that he was pushing. We like the fact that he put American interests first. He wasn't doing this globalist stuff. And this is my point with the establishment and the populist movement. The establishment is another word for globalist. The establishment serves global interest at the expense of American people. And the populist said, nah, F the globalists, F globalism. I don't care what the hell happened in Ukraine. That's their problem. We have to take care of problems here, right? What kind of person you are is like, if you can't even get your own house in order, who are you to go tell how someone else should run their house? That's essentially my version of populism. And this is what Trump's message is, pretty much the core root of it. And the establishment, and this is my take, Media can make the innocent guilty and the guilty innocent, right? They want to distract from what Trump is really saying and trying to make him out to be a racist, xenophobic. Oh, he hates people. Oh, he's dividing the country. No, he's not. He's really trying to unite the country. He's saying, look, we don't produce anything anymore. All our production and manufacturing seems to be in China, taking jobs from middle America, from rural America. This is why poverty is so bad in red states, because most of rural America used to have manufacturing, right? And then these liberals will come out here and make this liberal talking point. Oh, shoot. I got a storm that just happened. Hope I didn't lose. Okay. I thought I lost a signal because a storm's going on outside right now. All right. So I'm going to go into the video, politics and populism, and then I'll give my thoughts throughout the video. It should be a quick one.
I was elected to the Parliament of Canada 7 times, 3 times as Prime Minister. I did not expect Donald Trump to be elected President of the United States. But unlike most observers, I did think it was at least possible. Why? Because I sensed, as Mr. Trump surely did, that the political landscape had shifted. The underlying issue is this. Over the last few decades, thanks to globalization, 1 billion people, mostly in the emerging markets of Asia, have lifted themselves out of poverty. This, of course, is a good thing. Yet in many Western countries, the incomes of working people have stagnated or even declined over the same period.
So both sides can agree to this. Like, hey, wages have stagnated, right? But why? Right? Is it because, we don't have as much available jobs? Is it the fact that we have higher expenses? Is it the fact of inflation? And that's where the wages are really coming from. Inflation is the fact that our income's not catching up to inflation, right? But if the government, and this is, I think, is due to modern monetary theory, this idea that you can print money to kind of steer the economy. And I think inflation, and this is a point that Milton Friedman makes, he's an economist. He makes the argument that inflation comes directly from the government. And if there's no Fed, there's no inflation, because everything will fall into place, supply and demand. If something's in demand, it'll get more expensive, right? But with all this money printing, these big corporations like BlackRock, these banks, they get bailed out from the government. And before the market adjusts for the new supply and money, these banks leverage the fact that their money is more valuable right now. They spend it quick, gather assets, and then we left with the bag with the inflation and the higher cost, while they got to benefit before inflation was accounted for. And this is kind of the secrets of why big banks love the fact that the government is giving them money. And this is the kind of corporate corporatism that I kind of don't like. I want a separation between business and government because of what this private-public partnership that's going on. And ESG loves this stuff. The World Economic Forum loves this stuff. This is stakeholder capitalism. This is the reality of stakeholder capitalism, right? Where like multinational organizations have controlling influences in every country around the globe. And this is globalism. This is the real concept of globalism. And this is the problem that nationals, right, sovereign nationals like us, you can make it the case against all the populists. Italy, there's this uprising of populists saying, hey, yo, like, we're not a cog to some global scheme. We're not a pawn in your little game. Like, you're hurting us at the, this is why we're gaining poorer at the expense of helping Ukraine fight their wars, essentially doing a proxy war through Ukraine. But I'm done rambling. Let's get back into the video.
In short, many Americans voted for Donald Trump because the global economy has not been working for them. We can pretend that this is a false perception. We can keep trying to convince people that they misunderstand their own lives. Or we can try to understand what they are saying and offer some solutions. I prefer the latter approach. Let me begin with this. In our contemporary world, there are, as British journalist David Goodhart describes it, those who can live anywhere and those who live somewhere.
So this is the dichotomy I was talking about, like the laptop class, tech bros, right? And I'm gonna be honest with you. Corporate America is part of the anywhere class. We can work anywhere. I'm part of that class, the anywhere class, because my company is a multinational company. If I wanted to, I could work at the Czech Republic, Dubai, right? Because that's where the company is spread out. But most Americans, I'll say 60% of Americans are the somewheres. Their means of gaining an income is heavily tied to the location in which they work at. This is manufacturing, right? This is trade jobs in some cases. This is small businesses, right? People can't just uproot and leave. Oh, I can take advantage of the global economy at whose expense? And this is what politics kind of became, because if you even hear it about like student loan forgiveness. Student loan forgiveness only benefits 40% of Americans. But that's who the political class listens to. College educated whites, college educated voters. That's what they care about. But they don't care about the non-college educated voters, because they think, oh, the plebs, they're dummies. They don't understand nothing. We don't need to cater to them. If you look at Fox News, CNN, they catered more to that educated class, that went to college class, that Yale class. And they don't really give a damn about what the small roots people want. And that's what happened. That's what Trump gave them a taste of their medicine. This is why you had liberals ringing in the skies. Oh, these people didn't know who they voted for. They know damn well who they voted for. They didn't want to vote for someone of the anywhere class. And this is globalism. The somewheres are populist who understand, hey, manufacturing hurt my location. I live in a rural area. If they had kept manufacturing in my area, I would have had a good place to live. I would have had a decent income. I would have been able to take care of myself and my family. But because these globalists and politicians created an incentive where businesses, it was more in the businesses' best interest to leave America and put their manufacturing in China and India and these other locations, I lost out at an opportunity to gain an income. And I only have one choice. Either I move to a different location, but cities don't value the same skills that like cities is not a great place for manufacturing. I'm going to say that right now. And trade, if I can remember, I mean, there's some like welding, plumbing, those trades are fine. But for the most part, it's in rural areas. Steel manufacturing, rural areas. So if you had a job and you had skills where you were tied to manufacturing, you lost an income. And you're pretty much struggling to poverty. I forgot who made a book. I think it was J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance had a book talking about that poverty, how poverty affects white people at a not a disproportional rate, because at the end of the day, black people are still, minorities are poor too. But if you're talking about poor people, hey, we need to look out for the poor people. It's majority white. But that's not how our political conversations are centered around. They're mostly considered around minorities. And the white people are just left to their own devices. This is why when they put out this narrative about, oh, Trump is a party of white supremacists, is no. Trump is like, hey, poor people, I want to help you. I want to bring manufacturing to you, right? Because poverty hits red states more than blue states. Blue states have dense population, and what comes with dense population comes with a lot of tax revenue where they can use it for social welfare programs. Red states don't have that same benefit. If you look at the electoral map, and you look at states that have the most population, they tend to be blue, because that's where it seemed like all the people want to pack themselves in, right? USA, the United States continent, like the entire North America, only 5% of the land has populated. That means all of the United States live in 5% of North America. That's crazy. That means we have 95% of land that is untouched. That we like, to me, it's not a point of, hey, we're overpopulated. I just think we're densely populated. There's too many of us living in the same area and in square feet, right? Jenkins asked me, we need to steer the black community towards Larry Elder, Thomas Sowell, and Glenn Yorin. Thoughts, Kenny? I don't know who Glenn is, but I do agree. Thomas Sowell, like the order of how I found out, like how I came into gaining knowledge about black conservatism, it was through Larry Elder initially. I think it was Brandon Tatum. And then through Larry Elder, I found out about Thomas Sowell. And then after that, it was a wrap. Like I started like doing my own research and looking into other stuff. But yeah, I really do think they need to hear their voices more, but they get shouted out by mainstream media. I remember Don Lemon, right? He had an interview with Larry Elder in CNN one time. And I think he only had him once. After that, he kind of blackballed Larry Elder. And I think that's what happens a lot to black conservatives. Walter Williams is also another person I found out about as well. And you don't hear about these people a lot now. In the 1980s, they used to have a lot of debates. I think, I don't know, a part of me, when I look back at the history of Americans, I feel like a lot of Americans were more, the average American was more informed about general topics that affected us directly than Americans in 2023. Because some of the, like when I go back on videos and I go to Liberty Pin, or sometimes I showcase some of the videos that I display here and on my channel, they're videos from the 1980s, having crowds, talk shows, like, oh, we're debating it out. I'm like, wow, we need those back again. I'm craving for those again. I want those things back again, like where people are watching like mainstream television, debating hard issues that Americans are thinking about. But we don't have those shows anymore. Now we have these like echo chambers, essentially, is what you can call it. But I just think that's the part of our current political climate right now. Because I can admit, I'm a millennial. And when my generation gets more prominent in politics, we're gonna be more divided. Because the younger you go, the more divided the politics become. The baby boomers, Gen X, they're like the last chance of having a shared foundation. Because Gen X and baby boomers, statistically, they got their information from like the same sources, like the same 5 news media. While as a millennial, I got Post Millennial, I got Daily Wire, I got Fox News, I got Washington Post, The Hill. Like I got a lot more. There's a lot more sources of information where we can all pull different sources. Because there's a stat from the Pew Research Center that says that 60% of Americans do not agree on basic facts. So that means what we're looking forward to in the future? A lot of debate and a lot of a lot of arguments, but no debates. And I think debates can cure a lot of this sentiment of where, a lot of people don't see basic facts, because if you debate it out in the open and you televise it, it checks a lot of false assumptions that a lot of people have. But mainstream media don't want to give that. Opposing views don't want to give that platform. That's why I think what Vivek is doing by going on to MSNBC, CNN, and going to these other hostile territories is helping America kind of get back to agreeing on a basic foundation. I think that's what we need to work on moving forward if we want, a more informed America, because that's the goal I'm shooting for, a more informed America. But I digress. I've been rambling a little too long. Let's get into this video.
Imagine you work for an international bank, computer company, or consulting firm. You can wake up in New York, London, or Singapore and feel at home. Your work is not threatened by import competition or technological dislocation. You vocally support all international trade agreements and high levels of immigration. You're one of those who can live anywhere.
Which is we'll dub them the laptop class. And this is who I'm talking about. Like, these are the dudes that they make in 6 figures, right? While the somewheres, on average, they make average income, maybe a high 80K income, right? And who has more, and my argument is, who has more influence in politics? It's not the somewheres, it's the anywheres. And this is why we got kind of the establishment is catering itself, because the anywheres to me are the donor class. They're the ones. This is why establishment politics is so catered to globalism. Oh, war in Ukraine, we got to protect Ukraine, but we're not caring about what's going on with Americans here. Americans during 2021 was struggling to find baby formula. That was a scary time for me because my son was still getting baby formula. Luckily, we had some stuff in stash, but that was a scary time for me personally. 2021, when we had the baby formula food shortage, right? And we're here spending money to Ukraine, but Americans are struggling with a shortage of baby formula. To me, I'm like, yo, these politicians don't got their priorities straight, but the donor class is the reason why. Because the donor class is filled with who? Anywheres. That's the problem. And they dominate the political discussion. That's who politicians are catering themselves to, because they're like, oh, the somewheres will just follow along. And this is why Trump has a cult following almost. Because the somewheres like, yo, that's our guy. He's for us. They're prosecuting him because they don't want us to do good. Because imagine the somewheres had enough economic power the same way anywheres does. Oh my God. The populist movement will take over the entire American, the whole American politics. The anywheres can't have that happen. The laptop class, these programmers, these people who work in Twitter, Facebook, this is why they censor speech so much, because they know they're outnumbered, but they want to pretend, they want to use algorithms to essentially run the narrative. Right. And this is my argument to what I think a lot of black communities has been, like minority communities, has been kind of conditioned to be hostile to the Republican Party is because the anywheres don't want them to see Republicans in a positive light. I digress.
There are a lot of those people, but there are a lot more completely unlike them. Let's say you're a factory worker, small business person, or in retail sales. Your work has been disrupted by outsourcing, cheap imports, and technological change. Your children attend the local schools and your aging parents live nearby. Your social life is connected to a local church, sports team, or community group. If things go badly at your company, or if policy choices by politicians turn out to be wrong, you can't just shift your life to somewhere else. Like it or not, you depend on the economic policies of your national or state government. When it doesn't come through for you, you're not happy. And when it ignores you entirely, you get angry. It's easy for anywheres to dismiss these concerns.
Is this what not happens in our current political discussion today? When you talk to a liberal and you talk about, hey, they're trying to shove transgenderism down my kid's throat, they go, oh, that's not happening because their kids go to a public school. Sorry, not a public school. They go to some pricey private school in an elite area where their kids are kind of isolated from the stuff the peasants deal with. And this is the problem I have with our education system today, right? Our education system, and this is me beefing against the public school system. Yes, I know. But my mom saved me. She put me in private school. Thank God for Step Up for Students in Florida, right? That paid part of my tuition and my mom just covered the rest, right? That's why I'm a big fan of school choice. Because, hey, I want my people, right? I want black people. And this is one of the reasons why anyone should vote Republican is regardless of your economic status, the government should put the money in your hands so that way you can choose, hey, my kid has autism. Let's put them in this public school. Oh, this public school, all the public schools in my county are bad, but this private school is good. I'm going to put my kid in this private school, right? And the money will follow the child, right? That's going to increase the level of quality, and that will equip kids with academic skills so they can lift themselves out of poverty, so they can be less dependent on the government. Because what makes me a conservative, I guess, is that I believe in this idea of self-reliance, and the government is supposed to incentivize me to rely on myself, empower me to rely on myself. But there's a trade-off there. Government have less power and influence over me. And does that sound like something the Democrats want to do? No, they don't. Democrats play this game, and I call it, and black conservatives have been saying this for years. They call it the plantation politics. That what the Democrats want to do with their political policies is they want to enforce dependency on their policies, aka welfare, food stamps, right? They want to put this idea where, oh, we can handle that for you. Oh, single mom, you spending almost $650 a month on daycare. Oh, we have a policy where we can make daycare a right to free daycare. That's what the Democrats are pushing. But the single moms, they don't notice the trade-off they're making, that they're giving up control. Because then the government can say, oh, here, these daycares are free. And what the single mom's going to do? She's going to do what's convenient for her. She said, oh, I don't have to pay if I put my kid in this daycare, this government-ran daycare. And guess what? Let's say the government decides, hey, we're going to teach your kid transgenderism, this and that and the third. The mom's not going to worry about it because she's like, yo, this is saving me $650 a month. I'm going to put my kid in there. And the government can infuse their values. They can transmit their policies, their worldviews in that particular institution. And the mother has no say in it. She could be like, oh, you shouldn't be teaching my kids that men can be women and women can be men, that they should question their gender. What's their pronouns? You shouldn't be asking my kid that. And what the government is going to say? Government's going to say, we paying for it. You ain't paying for this. So you don't have a say in it. And my argument has always been, if you don't have a responsibility for it, if you're not responsible for paying for the institution, then you don't have authority over the institution. And that's the game government plays. And that's why the Democrats love people who are dependent on them, because the black community already kind of showed the results of this. The most loyal Democratic voter in America are black people. What are the circumstances with black people? If you look at welfare, black people have the highest percentage of usage compared to every other race in America. And they're the most dependent on the Democratic Party. The Democrats use the carrot on the stick tactic. Oh, they're gonna take away your welfare. This is why black women are like what? I think it's like it's an insane number. It's like 92% of black women vote Democrat. That's why, because a lot of them use a large percentage of them. It's still a minority buying you, but a large percentage of them rely on welfare, WIC, right? Section 8. And they know the Democrats are a big proponent, a big pusher of that. Well, hell, from the 1960s, war on poverty, who they cater to? The black woman, right? It's a long-term game that the Democrats play. And the black people today who are arguing with me about, oh, you're cool because you want to vote Republican, they don't understand the long-term effort that the Democratic Party has done to get black people to make voting Democrat their new normal. Because the old normal for the black community was voting Republican, but not a lot of black people, not a lot of millennial black people knows that today. They kind of act like, oh, they always was voting Democrat. No, Martin Luther King, before the 1960s, majority of black people voted Republican. Only one time before the 1960s that black people voted Democrat, and that was for FDR, and he cut them out of the New Deal. Right, but you know, black people don't know their history like that. They only know a narrow view of history that only makes the Democrats look good. I'm gonna keep saying this stat. Majority of journalists are liberals. Journalism is the most liberal profession in America. In my argument, and this is I'm cherry picking from Malcolm X's argument, the media can make the innocent guilty and the guilty innocent. The media can make the racist not racist and the non-racist racist. That's the media's narrative. The media can control the narrative. But hey, I digress. Let's get back into the video.
But the Anywhere's faith in global solutions and multinational political bodies is founded more on fantasy than fact. The fact is, the critical functions of laws and regulations and monetary and fiscal stability, among other things, are provided by nations, not global institutions. The nation, with all its flaws, is a concrete reality. The global community is little more than a concept.
And that's the truth. This is just a concept. They want us to follow this concept. Oh, we're the citizens of the world. That's the vision that the establishment want for everybody. Whether you're in Qatar or you're in America. Oh, we're all part of one community. They want nations to become a cog in their globalist vision. And this is why you see a lot of populism, the populism rising. It's coming from the right, because to me, and this is a book, Tucker Carlson called this out on his book, The Ship of Fools, but it's easier to buy out the loud, obnoxious left, and they know they don't have to really cater too much to the right. And this is what it seemed to happen. It seemed like the activists got bribed by these corporate American interests, and these same corporate American interests can vain looking, oh, look how good we are. They can virtue signal because they got the left on their side. The left said, oh, this is the best place to work for women. It don't matter what that company do. And it becomes like a moral shield in a way. Oh, we're fighting against climate change, right? Like Volkswagen, for instance. Oh, look, we made an electrical car. Then down the line you find out, oh, they rigged their cars to fake passing the environment test. But the article's already out there. Oh, Volkswagen's green. Oh, Volkswagen's exemplary in the fight for clean energy. Right? But they don't put out the story where look, Volkswagen rigged their cars to pass the emissions test from the environmental body, some government committee. There's so many of them, I can't even remember them all. Right? But, it's just to look good. Right? The companies could still be greedy corporatists, but now they're shielded by the woke left. Because the corporations are funding the woke left now. This is why woke lefties, when you have a problem with getting banned off Twitter, they go, well, it's a private company. They can do whatever they want. If you went back 40 years, if a Twitter existed back then, the left would have been the main one complaining about it. Free speech. But now they know, oh, the corporation's on our side. So we're going to play ball. We're going to protect our guy. And now the current political landscape is tribalism right now. Oh, the corporations are in our pocket, right? And with ESG, a lot of these corporations are pressured to join along with this movement, or else they're gonna get unless if they don't join ESG, a lot of these companies are scared that they're gonna be withheld from funding or get higher interest rates based off their low ESG score. This is why a lot of these companies are going woke. They're putting out a corporate incentive, right? And it's the only way I seem like we can fight this is with state power, but I'm getting into the weeds of stuff. This is about 10 reasons why you should vote Republican. One reason is populism is the strongest force currently in the Republican Party. Populism is pretty much almost dead at the left, right? Right. The only chance I think of populism that Democrats have a chance of actually seeing is through RFK, and they don't want to support him. Right. Majority of Democrats don't want Joe Biden to run, but guess what? Joe Biden's running, and it seemed like the Democrats establishment is telling the Democratic voter, "Hey, you do what we say. We don't do what you say." And the Republican Party is opposite. And the Republican Party is bottom up. Like the bottom decides, hey, we wanted Trump. It didn't matter what the establishment said. He's not a good candidate. He's not going to win. Hillary's not guaranteed to win if we put Trump in. And now they're saying the same thing. Trump can't win. You said this. You said it in 2015. What makes you think you're right now? You were wrong. Like a lot of people, especially Ben Shapiro, love the guy. Think like I rarely disagree with this guy, Ben Shapiro. But 2015, Trump can't win. Hillary's going to be guaranteed to win if we elect this guy. 2016 happened, got proven wrong. And now they're essentially saying the same stuff in 2023. I don't know, man. I don't believe people are going to turn out for Joe Biden at the same rate in 2020. But I damn sure know that a lot of Republicans or a lot of Trumpers are going to turn out at the same level they turned out for Trump in 2020. To me, because everyone's saying, oh, it's a turnout game. Okay, I think Trump can keep most of his turnout. Because moderates are not in favor of either or, right? But I just think Trump's base has more energy behind it, more enthusiasm behind it. Who's enthusiastic about Biden? Bro, in the beginning, I just played a partial song about Trump's not AI generated movie, High Res, a rapper using a voiceover of Trump and rapping about Trump's first day out. Where's Biden's rap song? No one's enthusiastic to vote for Biden, but hey, we'll see, because then it is a speculation. I digress. But this is some of the reasons why people like Trump. Trump is talking about the nation. He's not talking about some concept. He's talking about the reality. Look at how your policies hurt the nation. The nation is who? Americans. Look at the Americans. Their wages are stagnating. They can't find jobs. Cost of living rose for them because of inflation. They have no means of producing income for themselves. They're getting fentanyl. They're getting this. Devastation. How can we help the nation? That's the reality. How you can help your own people. This global community concept has never been tried before. And they want to do all this for their new ideas. The global community is how it ought to be. No. The reality is we're nations and we best understand our nation. We don't understand what's good for Qatar. You think, oh, gay rights should apply in Qatar. And in Qatar, you trying to apply gay rights cause a whole uprising in Qatar. Like, is this idea like, and this is where the egotistical nature, I like to call out these globalists, how egotistical you have to be to think you know what's best for the entire world. All nations should believe this, regardless of their culture, their beliefs, their history. No, you should scrap all that and believe this one world vision. That's what globalists want you to believe. At least as a populist, we're more honest about what we want. Hey, we want what's best for us. And that's realistic. Like, you don't sit here and think, oh, what's best for the community? You start off, what's best for my family? Okay, then what's best for my community? There's an order to these things. But these globalists want you to, no. They like Drake. Forget all that. This is the vision for everybody. And it so happens they benefit the most from it. All right, let's continue with the video, man. I'm going to let this video run straight because I'm about to hit my time and I want to get into the 10 reasons with Larry Elder why you should leave the Democratic Party or vote for the Republican Party. Let's get into the video.
Yet it is the anywheres, with their faith in globalization, not the somewheres, who have dominated the politics of almost every advanced country. That is, until now. This sea change is not limited to the United States. The same dynamics, anywhere elites versus somewhere populists, is playing out across the Western world. These populists, as I've tried to show, are not the ignorant and misguided deplorables depicted in mainstream media. They are our family.
And the funny part is the kind of energy that Hillary brought out of people when she called them deplorables, I think that ended her career as a politician because she got cocky. Let's call it a spade a spade. She got cocky, and it seemed like the Democrats are are doing the same thing. The mugshot is essentially having the similar effect than the same effect that Hillary had when she called Trump voters a basket of deplorables. I'm just saying, that's an observation I want to put out there.
Family, friends, and neighbors. The populists represent, by definition, the interests of ordinary people. And in a democratic system, the people are supposed to be our customers. So how, then, can we best serve them? I propose an approach I call populist conservatism. Grounding ourselves in tried and true conservative values, we must speak to the issues that concern the somewheres and their families, those of ordinary people, not elites. Those issues include market economics, trade, globalization, and immigration. In addressing these issues, conservatives should remain pro-free market, pro-trade, pro-globalization, and pro-immigration. Going in a completely opposite direction in any of these areas is a mistake. But being pro-market does not mean that all regulations should be dismantled or that government should never intervene to protect workers.
Yeah, and this is another thing that's played out in politics is that people want to make straw men out of your argument. If you say you're pro-market, oh, you want no regulation. No, it's just we lean towards the ideal is no regulation, but we understand some it's like in our politics today, we lack nuance. People are trying to misquote you. People are trying to misconstrue what you have to say. They try to label you a certain way. And that's the main issue I have with politics, right? If you say something, you happen to be a certain skin color and you disagree with the majority of the people that share the same skin color as you get called a name, coon, right? But they don't deal with the argument. Instead, they want to make a narrative or smear you or label you, right? I have a problem with that wholeheartedly, but let's continue.
Being pro-trade does not imply that every trade agreement is a good one. Being pro-globalization should not entail abdicating loyalty or responsibility to our country and our local communities. And being pro-immigration should never mean sanctioning illegal immigration, erasing our borders, or ignoring the interests of our citizens. I call this populist conservatism, but it's really just conservatism. Conservatism is about seeing the world as it is. It's also inherently populist because it is about serving real people rather than theories.
I agree, right? And that's conservatism. That's why I like this video. He summed it up pretty well. And at the end of the stream, I always put all the videos I reference in the link in the description after I stream the video. And that's what conservatism is. You're conserving what? America. Hey, you want America to stay number one? Okay. That's the interest that conservatives are pushing. Hey, this is not really going to help America stay number one, right? If we stop doing fossil fuels, we could put our people at risk, right? And this is a lot of the things that these climate change people do not want to admit is that there's no perfect. Oh shit! I scared myself. My bad. Oh my god, that was funny. Yeah, you guys can probably. I'll probably clip that, but that scared me. That scared me. I didn't expect the video to play, but a lot of the climate change people, they don't consider trade-offs. And I think if we can put this idea in politics, if you don't get anything from this video, get this, that this is a quote from Thomas Sowell, one of my most favorite authors. I have his Basic Economics right here behind the book, right here. There's no perfect solutions in life. There's only trade-offs. And that's something you learn in engineering and any science. Everyone knows this. This is reality, right? When you pick the Democratic Party, there's pros and cons. When you pick the Republican Party, there's pros and cons. There's not one party that have all the solutions to the problem. But my argument here is black people have been voting Democrat for 50 years, right? They've been voting for the same party at a 90% clip for 50 years. If you look at the span of when black people started voting Democrat at a disproportional rate, which began in the 1960s, you saw a decline in kids being born to two-parent households. Before the 1960s, black people were 85% married. Now, within the 1960s and 1980s, they were 55% married. Then it became 25%. Now we're here today, 76% of kids are born out of wedlock. Right? And then I make the stats. Single moms have a higher propensity for poverty than married people. Another. So I make the argument that black people voting Democrat for 50 plus years, their policies gave a negative result to the people, and they know they can't run on that, right? Because war on poverty was supposed to lower the poverty rates in the black community. But if you look at the poverty rate right now compared to the 1960s, the poverty rate is the same. So what's the purpose of welfare? If the purpose of a government program was to lower poverty, and it did not lower poverty even after 50, 60 years of the program running, what a common sense individual would do? Defund it, remove it. Hey, it's not working. But no, the government keep it. Why? Because it served another purpose, to make black people or whoever, poor people who are reliant on welfare, Section 8, dependent on the policy, dependent on the program, and therefore the originator of that program, aka the Democratic Party, you'll be dependent on them for votes, right? And one of the reform I would do if I was president, one of the reform I would do is that if you're on welfare, you lose the right to vote, because I feel like desperate people are easier to manipulate than people who are self-sufficient. And I think that's one reform I'll do with welfare. If I could do any fixes to welfare, hey, you lose the right to vote if you're on welfare. Because the Democrats have it too easy. You can get a bunch of people dependent on you, right? Because look at what they're doing to the economy. Inflation's out the roof. Hurting, cost of living's rising. Like, there's TikToks out there, Americans can't survive. They don't know how people are surviving in this economy. You're essentially incentivizing people to rely on the government. You saw it with COVID. Everyone stay home. No one works. Giving them so much government benefits that you incentivize them to stay. People made more money staying home than going out to do their job. And it hurt the service business, mostly the hospitality sector. And no one sees a problem with that. No one sees how they're being kind of guided down a particular path. And why? They make it convenient for you. When a company wants you to do something, they make it easy for you to do it. Have you ever tried to cancel a subscription-based service before? They make it easy. They make it easy for you to sign up, but they make it hard for you to cancel. And that's how the Democratic Party operates. But I digress. Let's get back into the video. Let's get into the start of the video.
10 reasons why blacks should leave the Democratic Party. Reason number 10, choice in education.
We will rescue kids from failing schools by helping their parents send them to a safe school of their choice.
The proposal that I brought forth on education ends all private charter schools in this country.
All those white people say, oh my God, he's going to end all private schools. Here's the reality, black people. The best place to educate your kid that's not homeschool or private school is charter school. Charter schools give better academic outcomes for minorities, right? Actually, any kid that goes there, because that's how bad our public school is. It's just white people are better able to adjust for the lack of outcomes in public schools. But, obviously poor people are not able to overcome that deficiency in education in the public school, right? But this caters to everybody, but, black people specifically. And look how they're cheering about it. It hurts you, but it helps them, because guess what? If all your kids go to public school, who got control of the public school? Democrats do. Who do teacher unions overwhelmingly donate money to? To the Democrats. The Democrats play you scratch my back, I scratch yours. And they get to control the narrative in public school. And this is one of the reasons why black people have a hostility towards conservatives. Because in public school, you never heard a conservative idea in your life, for most part. 70% of our American kids are educated in public school. And you wonder why these young kids are so liberal. Well, that's all they learn in school. They learn how liberal this, liberal that. Democrats did this. They learn about the party switch in school. But no concrete evidence. They just believe authority, because that's how school operates. If you don't write the answer exactly how the teacher teach you, you fail the class. So they say, hey, when did the party switch? They can essentially indoctrinate your kids. And your kid's going to be, I can't fail this class. And they go along to get along. That's how it was in college. That's why I had to drop out of college. Because it be like that. I took a political class. I couldn't take it anymore. I was like, I'm good. Disagreeing with the teachers don't do well for your grades. But you don't think it's happening in college? You don't think it's happening in high school? And this is why when a lot of people say, I'm skeptical of both parties. Okay. You don't know your history, bro. Who's the center of all the bad things that happen in this country? Who created the KKK? Democrats. Which president revitalized segregation in the KKK? Woodrow Wilson. Who was he? What president he was? Democrat. Who cut black people out of the New Deal? FDR. He played along with the racist Democrats. Who's the majority party in the South? Democrat. What party Jim Crow was affiliated with? Democrats. All the bad history of America, who was at the core of it? Who was driving it? The Democratic Party. But you don't learn that in public school, do you? No, because it hurts the teachers that vote Democrat, donate heavily to Democrats, right? Democrats control a lot of these institutions, especially the Department of Education. You think Democrats want to tell you an honest critique of themselves? Oh, you crazy. Of course they're going to give you a biased view of history. But black people think they're educated on history. And then when they hear me talk, they want to get offended and call me names. But then I challenge them on their little view of history and they can't back it up. 1619 is being funneled in public school, in education. Why they not funneling Uncle Tom 2, Uncle Tom 1? Why they don't play those films in public school? No, it don't help the narrative. Peter says, very important to let people know how the Democrats broke up the team to weaken the team. The team is being married black couples and raising kids. Yes, exactly. Right? The black family was what allowed the black community to build Black Wall Street. To be successful in spite of segregation, in spite of, in the South, mind you, because, there were free black peoples that were never slaves in the North. But, you don't learn history like that in public school, people. I have to learn this for myself. You have to be self-educated. Like what Frederick Douglass said. A man who can read is forever free. And self-education is the best education. Why? Because you get to control what you get to see. But when you get education through a filter, and that's what school is, it's a filter, they can filter out things that they can pick and choose what they want to filter. And if I want you to think a certain way, I just filter out all the history that make my party look bad. And feed you a nice narrative about history. Oh, Lyndon B. Johnson. He passed the Civil Rights Bill, right? And he was a Democratic president. Put this false perception. Oh, if you'll take it at service level. Oh, that means Democrats was the one that's passed the Civil Rights Bill. Oh, Martin Luther King was speaking for the Democrats. Oh, LBJ was doing war on poverty. He was trying to help black people. They can paint this pretty narrative, but then if you look deeper, oh, how the bill got passed. Oh, damn. Lyndon B. Johnson had to fight his own party to get the bill passed. Lyndon B. Johnson had to get the help of Republicans to pass the Civil Rights Bill. Interesting. Oh, in 1959, Lyndon B. Johnson was against the Ninja Bill. These uppity ninjas. Lyndon B. Johnson said that. He was quoted the same year in 1965 when he passed the bill. He told his driver that, hey, he's always going to be a ninja and he has to learn how to let the word ninja slide off his back. I forgot the name of the driver. This man was a political genius, LBJ. He said, I'm going to have these ninjas voting Democrat for 200 years. And we seem to, many of us still seem to be on schedule. But did you learn that in public school? Nope. I bet you, if I was your teacher, shoot, them black kids will be acting different, bro. I'll be like, hey, this is what he said. Y'all ninjas will be voting Democrat for 200 years. Here's how his policies helped create the environment where in 2023, most black people live in today. He incentivized single motherhood, which puts you in a higher, there's a study that showed this. Locations that have a high rate of single motherhood have high rates of crime because who commits more crimes? Children of single motherhoods. Who's more likely to drop out of school? Children of single mothers. Who's more likely to have teen pregnancy? Children of single mothers. Who has a high propensity of poverty? Single mothers. This is why single moms have a large proponent of poverty. That's why a lot of them are on welfare. And who has the lion's share of single motherhoods based on race? Disproportionately black. This is why black community has a large usage rate in welfare programs. This is why black women are the most loyal after black men. No, before black men, sorry. Black women number 1, black men number 2. And in my view, it's insane that black men has been so loyal to the Democratic Party this long. Because if you look at the Democratic platform, none of it really benefits black men at all. Right? But you know, I digress. Let's get into it. I'll let this video run. Happy.
And tonight I say to the city of Chicago, sign a contract with the unions that does not expand charter schools in Chicago.
All I heard was, I do not want these ninjas to have a good education. I want them to stay Democratic loyalists. I want them to be propagandized in Democratic views. I want these black kids to stay liberal. Actually, that's any kid that goes to public school. But, you know, I'm just making the case for why, you know, black community, the Democrats don't deserve your loyalty. That's the argument I'm trying to make here. But this is for anyone. This is for any minority. This is from any American, especially if you're poor. The Democrats are not the party of the little guy. The Democrats are the party that uses the little guy to get their way, to get their power, to expand their influence, power, and control. You're just a shield that they use to guard themselves against criticism. That's the game. Like, I'm real. I'm blunt. Like, I feel like the conservatives are blunt. That's why people don't like someone who's real. And I think the Republicans say, hey, we can't do that. And the Democrats lie and say, we can do that. And then when you put them in office and then you find out they couldn't do anything, Barack Obama, hope and change. I'm gonna lower black unemployment. Nope. Couldn't do none of that. And Donald Trump said, hey, I can lower black unemployment. And Obama said, no, you can't. What magic wand you got, Trump? And what happened? Trump was able to do it. This is what I'm talking about. Like, yo, like, I think this is why I say America can't handle honest politicians. When the Republicans come out and say, hey, man, I think we need to manage the budget. Democrats come out and make lies. Oh, we can still do all this and manage the budget. And you let them do their little policy and they make everything worse. Inflation Reduction Act. Now, inflation hasn't reduced much. It was at 40%. They was able to lower it to 20%, but it's still higher, 20% from 2020. But we reduce inflation. Look, our Bidenomics is working. I don't trust anything the media says. Like, this is why alternative media is becoming so popular, especially with millennials, because we know what they're doing. Journalists are liberals. Majority of that's like 94% of journalists are liberals. That means 94% of journalists are trying to project a favorable view of the Democratic Party. They try hard not to criticize Democrats. And this is why you get this false perception that, oh, Democrats are for the little guy. Oh, Democrats are the good guys. As if politics is that simple. One party's good, one party's evil. I just think one party is right and one party's wrong on particular certain issues. That's it. That's how you're supposed to think about this stuff. But these politicians, they don't want you to judge them on outcomes. They don't want you to judge them on substance. They want you to judge them on intentions. And the road to hell was paved by good intentions. And I feel like America's going to the road to hell. Mean tweets about our gas prices was good. That's Trump. But you wanted Biden because he ain't going to be mean. He's forgettable. He's stumbling on stage. He told you 3 words. He says 2 words. He said 2 words. Made in America. He gave you 3. That's the president y'all voted for. Biden's the most popular president in U.S. history. That's the most popular president in U.S. history. Joe Biden, 82 million votes. I'm just saying.
And so the point is, if I'm president, Betsy DeVos's whole notion from charter schools to this are gone.
But black and brown Democrats want choice. Do you know who doesn't? White Democrats. Poll results from Democrats for Education Reform. Among white Democratic voters, only 26% expressed a favorable opinion toward charters. Blacks, 58% favorable. Hispanics, 52% favorable. Again, these are among Democrats.
So essentially you're voting for the white Democrats' agenda, minorities, and y'all think y'all getting something out of it. Black people was like, there's videos I showed that black people are complaining how the black vote is taken for granted. This is why the black vote gets taken for granted on an issue that favors you. Because if you look at the statistics for most people who homeschool kids, it's minority. It's a majority minority. Black people at 16%, Hispanic people at 50%. Those are the majority of people that homeschool their kids. I'm homeschooling my kids because I don't want my kids going through the trash ass public school system. Sorry. Right? But this video was narrated by a conservative think tank. It was explosive. It could set people free if they see it. Exactly. But you think that's what I'm saying. Like the people have to be willing to look for that. And I think as a people, I think the main reason why black people get caught up in these propaganda or these narratives that the Democratic push out is because within the community, there's no goal. There's no like vision of how they want how they want themselves to be. I bet you if people had a vision like me, hey, I'm trying to get a good education for my kid. If there was we vision education, we want a good economics, something to base the priorities of the two parties and see which party helps us get closer to our goals. And I think that's what's going on in the black community. There's no goal setting in the black community. There's no goal. There's no overarching goal that the community agrees on where, hey, we're trying to compete academically, right? We're trying to compete economically. There's no goal like that. Right? Because if you look at economics, the Republican Party helps you do that. You have to start businesses to rise your people, to increase the wealth of the black community. You need to be able to build businesses, not becoming employees to these white liberals, these liberal corporations. Because I can tell you this, most corporations are liberal. I work in one. I have a white collar job. I'm part of the Anywhere class. I'm a laptop class. Most of these companies are liberal. So instead of going out and building your own thing, you got to work for the liberal white man. Right? And they don't want to make this narrative as if all the racists are in the conservative party. You're a damn liar. Craziness. Look, something that benefits black people. I already made my case. I ain't gonna rehash arguments. See, only 26% of them agree with it. Why? Because they want you to stay. They want you to be the little black minority victim where you fulfill their liberal savior complex. That's the job of Ibram X. Kennedy, to tell these white liberals how, oh my God, our success, our success and our hope are in white people. White people must change so that way we can do better in life. White guilt is black power. That's Ibram X. Kennedy's people. This is why Ibram X. Kennedy's book, black people don't buy that shit. Oops, I cursed. Most people who buy his book are white, liberals, white elitist suburban liberals, mostly poverty white women. So they can feel like, oh my God, we need to save these black people, right? Bill Maher just checked some rocker or some liberal rock star. I might do a video on that. This guy still thinks only 5% of black people live good in America. What crack these liberals smoking today? Only 5% of black people are living well in America? What? They still think, oh, you're poor. You don't know how to use the internet. You don't know how to get a driver's license. This is why voting registration laws are racist. That's the assumption they have of you. Liberals have this low expectation of black people, and they wonder why. And black people just play along. Oh, yeah, I'm hurt. I'm this. Because black people think they can get something out of it, not understanding the real cost of getting something. Oh, you want to get free? Oh, you want to get free? Okay. Hey, you know, make sure you vote for the Democrats. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, man. Let's get back into the video.
Well, just how bad is school choice?
Some charter schools have raised kids' test scores.
High test scores made these charters so popular that parents line up, hoping to
look
get
at all
their
the minorities.
kids
Look at all the black kids. Look at it.
On and on.
But But they don't want to vote for the party that's actually going to make this stuff more accessible to them. They have to wait in lines for a lottery, praying for a chance, because these liberals are in democratic cities are trying to destroy these charters. You got Bernie Sanders talking about charter school. Oh, we need to defund these charter schools, even though they're giving better educational outcomes for minorities, for anybody really. But they want to improve education. These Democrats care about education. Yeah, right. It seems like to me they're using education as a shield to push their agenda, to gain more power and control and influence over the future of Americans. Because at the end of the day, like what Hitler says, he who controls the children controls the future. And that's what the Democrats want. They want to breed in more Democratic voters, more people who will be passively Democrat. And that's what I'm fighting against. That's what I'm speaking out against. That's what I'm debating against. This passive liberal bias that the silent majority or uninformed or non-apolitical people have, because they have media, they have Hollywood, right? I already told you, journalists, when people get most of their information from, these people have a liberal bias. I can assume that because they show that with their money. They show that with their vote. They show that with their party affiliation, but they pretend to be impartial. Oh, I'm unbiased. Yeah, right. I don't believe you. I'm a very skeptical man. And this is what I'm trying to tell black people. I don't care if you don't care. I don't care if you don't think, oh, we shouldn't be voting Republican either. I just want y'all butt to be independent, bro. That's what I care about. That's the middle ground I'm looking for. But I digress.
Sad is that there is a line. 1 million kids are on waiting lists to get into charters in America.
Number 9, the Democrats' refusal to even consider the privatization of Social Security, something that would disproportionately benefit blacks. Because African Americans generally have shorter life expectancies than do whites.
True.
They receive less total Social Security payments over the course of their lifetimes. Social Security also contributes to the growing wealth gap between blacks and whites.
Imagine that. Like when they talk about the wealth gap is because of racism. No, it's not because of racism. You live less than other groups of people. Well, you also hire victims of crime because disproportionately black men commit most of the crime as well. So black on black crime is a big reason why most of us die. Like you see it with those rappers. Every rapper that died at the hands of another person, who was it? The perpetrator was black. Nipsey Hussle, black. What's his name? PGM Rock. I forgot the guy's name already. Black. In Los Angeles, black. Young Dolph from Memphis, who killed him? Black person. Takeoff, who killed him? Black person. And they wonder why, the wealth gap is expanding in America. This is why. White people live longer, therefore they have more opportunity to generate more wealth. But you want to make it a race thing. But you don't want to point into the other factors that contributes to your low life expectancy, black people. This is why I say it's an internal issue. If you don't fix your decision making, if you don't change your culture to value things that actually will help you in the long term, we're going to continue getting this result. And the Democrats can keep playing pretend like they're doing something for you when they're not addressing the real source of the problems between your wealth gap. I digress. Let's continue with the video.
Because Social Security taxes squeeze out other forms of saving and investment, especially for low-income workers, many African Americans are unable to accumulate real wealth. And since Social Security benefits are not inheritable, that wealth inequity is compounded from generation to generation. African Americans would be among those with the most to gain from the privatization of Social Security, transforming the program into a system of individually owned, privately invested accounts.
See, when the Democrats always try to spin this narrative of privatization is bad, like all you have to do is compare Amazon with the U.S. Post Office. Who's better at like delivering products to you? Amazon, a privately owned company. Why? Because they're more efficient at managing their resources. The government, there's no incentive for the government to manage resources well. If they get rewarded for inefficiencies. Oh, we need more money. That's why, to justify increasing taxes, to justify pulling more budgeting for their department. That's how government is. They're literally fighting for taxpayer money because they know it's almost no accountability. This is why it's hard for government to shrink itself because there's too much conflict of interest within the government administration. Departments fighting for funding. Oh, we can't cut that. We need that. But it's used to pay salaries of these high-ranking officers in government, save jobs in government. If government was ran like the private sector where they had to be scared of layoffs, the government would be working a lot better. But that requires the government to be smaller. And right now, the only candidate that's incentivized to shrink the government is Donald Trump because of the fact they're prosecuting him. And Vivek, who points out this inefficiency problem. Because imagine, black people don't live as long as other groups of people in America, right? But since Social Security is controlled and owned by the government, this is why I'm not a big fan of government providing for you, because when they provide for you, they have responsibility and control over it. But if it's privately owned, hey, here's your investment account number, and this is your tax money is being paid into this thing right here. The same thing I do with my health savings account. They take my money before taxes, put it in my health savings account. They can literally do the same thing with Social Security. And if something happened to you, you die, Whoever's on your beneficiary, they'll get the money. Generational wealth right there. The government can essentially do that. Okay, let's privatize Social Security. Here's your Social Security account. Your tax dollars are going to go into this account. People can visibly see it. Hell, they may even take chances to use it to donate or invest into other stocks. Maybe you can manage your money better than the government can. Right? This is some of the ideas that the Republican Party have. And if I was, look, I always make the joke. If I was the king of black people, right? If I was the civil rights leader of our generation, this is how I would negotiate. I'd be like, hey, I like this policy. What's your counter to this? Oh, no, don't disparage it. I already saw the results. The results are pretty favorable. The Republicans make a good point for why we should privatize Social Security. Either you're gonna adopt this position, or my vote going over here, and that's called leverage. Like imagine knowing a political party cannot win without you. Oh, that's only true for the Democratic Party, by the way. This is why Republicans don't court the black vote. Republicans can win elections without the black vote, and I already predicted. I'm warning black people. I feel like this is the last 2 decades. I think black people have 2 decades to continue being this leverage for the Democratic Party. Because if the Democratic Party gets 90% of the Hispanic vote, or they're able to get these immigrants the right to vote, oh, they don't need to cater to the black vote anymore. Allegedly, there's 22 million illegal immigrants in America today. If the Democrats are able to get these 22 million immigrants to have the right to vote, oh, they don't need a black vote anymore. They don't need it anymore. So they're going to stop playing catering to you. But for now, they're going to give you lip service. They're going to make Juneteenth a holiday, but they ain't doing anything tangible for you. Right? This is why Hillary Clinton played this, I got hot sauce in my purse. Because they feel entitled to your vote already. The Democratic Party don't need to work for the black vote anymore. And my argument is, hey, black people, the Democrats are comfortable with y'all vote. Y'all need to be able to start showing you're open to the Republican Party, open to Republican policies. And this is what I'm doing with this video. So you could go, oh, okay, I'm thinking about, and then you make them compete. Because end of the day, I'm a capitalist. And one thing as a capitalist, I understand is that you don't get the best offer when there's only one people vying for it. If the Democratic Party is the only one vying for your vote, you're not going to get the best offer from them because they know you have nowhere else to go. But if you have 2 offers, hey, I'm considering going Republican, both parties have to compete and make better quality policies to address the issues that you have. But black people don't think strategically like this. They think emotionally because the Democrats keep putting propaganda to make them think emotionally. And this is why they keep being so dependent on the Democratic Party. This is why. This is why when Charlamagne Tha God gets wrecked by Larry Elder, because he has no facts or evidence to back up why he supports the Democratic Party or why he looks favorably at the Democratic Party more than the Republican Party. Because he don't know history. He don't know how the outcomes of these policies has incentivized his own people to create bad choices. He don't take none of this into consideration. He just followed the narrative. Oh, I'm black. I'm supposed to vote Democrat. How you think it started? Where did that start? Like, imagine being a group of people never questioning assumptions. And this is my argument. I say if every black person thinks the same about the Democratic Party, is the people really thinking about the Democratic Party? Like, are you really thinking? If a group of people think the same way about an issue, are you really thinking about the issue? And the answer is no. The black people are not really thinking about their loyalty to the Democratic Party. It's just something they've been told. It's been something that they try to latch onto their identity and said, you ain't black if you don't vote for me. Imagine the balls to say that in front of a black man's face. And no pushback. He got some pushback, but obviously, they played lip service. Oh, he was joking. If Donald Trump said that, you think they'll be doing the same thing? No, they wouldn't. Because the media is liberal bias, has a liberal bias. I'm going to keep saying this now. I'm blue in the face. Malcolm X warned y'all about this already. I'm a black conservative, and I can agree on Malcolm X's point about the media. The media controls perception. And my argument is, as a black conservative, is, hey, most black people, the reason why you're passively more agreeable towards the Democrats is because you've been propagandized, you've been conditioned to think that way. Challenge your assumptions. And that's all I'm asking for. Challenge your assumptions. Because you may not have, you don't have to agree with me. I'm not here to have everyone agree with me, but I'm here to clarify where I'm coming from. Because y'all can keep trying to paint this narrative. These black liberals keep painting this narrative. Oh, you're a coon, Kenny. You're Uncle Tom. I'm all that in a bag of chips. What about this argument though? Like, focus on substance. This is what leads black people to keep voting for their own downfall. Imagine you voting for a political party that sees charter schools as a bad thing, even though it's giving you personally, black people, a better outcome than what they want for you. But Democrats are the party of lesser evil. But I digress.
End of quote. Number 8, race-based preferences to achieve racial diversity. What this does is cause a mismatch between college and student. The student, who supposedly benefited from racial preferences. This is UCLA law professor Richard Sander, who, by the way, is a Democrat.
Nationally, the great bulk of minority students, especially African American students, were receiving very large preferences, typically on a scale of a couple hundred, the equivalent of a couple hundred SAT points or 10 LSAT points, 10 to 15 LSAT points. That bar passing traits were generally very poor for this group. Only about a third of blacks starting law school in the early 2000s were graduating and passing the bar in their first attempt.
Number 7.
Imagine that. You lower the standards, right? Let's say, based on, let's look at the two systems we're playing here. Republicans want you to get there on your own merits. Republicans don't want to be the ones taking credit for your success. That's what I like about the Republican Party, right? You put meritocracy. Oh, you're a black person, you there? Oh, you made it on your own merits. The Republican Party ain't gonna question your credentials because they know the standards is applied equally across everybody, gender and race and sexual orientation, if you want to throw that in there. But in the Democratic system, hey, we're gonna give race-based preferences. You don't think people are gonna question your credentials if they know that there's a special incentive to push you into law school to save you a seat at the table? People are going to question your credentials. Of course they will. It's common sense. Like, yo, you coming in, damn, you have to score 100 points lower than me and you qualify? Bruh, people are going to look at you skeptically. I will look at you skeptically. If I found out my doctorate was a diversity, I made it through, I barely passed medical school and that's the norm. People who go into college admissions or get a job through affirmative action, they tend to get laid off more than people who didn't. When layoffs happen, they're the first one to go. The diversity people are the first one to go because the company is no longer able to pay insufficient work, and that's what's going to happen when you get somebody that got there through affirmative action and not through their merit. You'll get more college dropouts. They're more likely to get fired. They're more likely to fall out of the system. Right? And maybe it benefits their DEI. Oh, they can keep hiring. Look, we're maintaining our quotas. But if you look at tenure, these people don't stay in there long. So what's worse? A system that rejects you up front because you don't have the skills to get in, or a system that puts you in and sets you up for failure, and then you spend time, money just to fail because the people essentially set you up for a negative result. And that's the negative drawback against affirmative action. This is why a conservative like me is against affirmative action, because it doesn't really benefit black people. Affirmative action is racism under new management, and that's the fact. I digress.
The welfare state. LBJ's war on poverty. The intent was honorable. The effect, disastrous.
The illegitimacy rate among blacks was about 12%. In 1918, the illegitimacy rate among black teenagers was less than that among white teenagers. So how do you explain?
This is Walter Williams. I think a lot of black people would benefit greatly hearing him speak about slavery, about the effects of welfare. I'm gonna let him speak because I made my point about this already, so I'm gonna let him speak.
The increase in illegitimacy or out-of-wedlock marriages or slovenliness in general. Well, I mean, I think any economist would tell you that if you tax something, you're going to get less of it. And if you subsidize something, you're going to get more of it, whether it's wheat, cheese, or slovenly behavior.
Show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome. The facts. If you subsidize something, you want more of it. If you tax something, you want less of it. If you tax the rich, you're going to get less people who want to be rich. Who want to work for something and then lose 60% of it? Nobody. This is why a lot of these policies are counterproductive. I digress.
And indeed, United States, we have been subsidizing slovenly behavior. That is, we have been making the cost of illegitimacy or having kids out of wedlock relatively cheap. That is through welfare payments, through other kinds of in-kind payments.
Number 6, illegal immigration, something supported by big business for cheap labor, supported by Democrats for votes.
Exactly, right? Because that's the intention there. I just did an inconvenient truth about open borders, and I clipped this video in there. Illegal immigration hurts black and legal immigrants more than anyone else, right? And that's why I said the Democratic Party is the party of elitist, rich people, of globalist interests. They don't care, right? You see France country is almost like mass unchecked immigration. You see what happens to these countries. Higher rates of crime. Yo, it's out of control in France. And they want to do the same thing here. For what? For globalist interest. It seemed like for the rest of the world to catch up, they have to make America essentially destroy itself. That's how much a threat America populism is to the global establishment. This is one of the reasons I think they're going after Trump so hard. But I digress.
George Borjas, the Harvard economist, has probably done more work on the effect of legal and illegal immigration than any other economist in the country. Because a disproportionate percentage of immigrants have few skills, it is low-skilled American workers, including many blacks and Hispanics, who have suffered most from this wage dip. The monetary loss is sizable. The typical high school dropout earns about $25K annually. According to census data, immigrants admitted in the past 2 decades lacking a high school diploma have increased the size of low-skilled workforce by roughly 25%. As a result, the earnings of this particularly vulnerable group drop by between $800 and $1,500 each year, end of quote.
And that's the cost of mass immigration every year. This is why there needs to be some restrictions. Like, I'm not like, I don't have a radical position on immigration, but I think there should be, like, with the amount of mass immigration that we dealt with for the past maybe 3 years already with Joe Biden, I think there needs to be a temporary freeze on immigration, at least for now, right? And we should immigrate like other countries do, like Dubai. Dubai will say, hey, we'll give you a legal resident. We need software engineers. We need construction workers. We need businessmen. Here you go. We don't give you citizenship, but we give you an ability to work here. That's a similar policy America can do for now, and it will help our economy. It could supercharge our economy. We give somebody work, and they don't have to feel entitled to get citizenship, right? And I think that's kind of how Vivek is looking at immigration as well. But a lot of conservatives don't agree with Vivek's immigration policy. But I think that's the smart thing to do. That's the more nuanced way of immigrating people into the country. But if you just let people come as you are, bro, it's the same thing with affirmative action. You setting up a lot of immigrants for failure and dependency. And that helps who? The Democratic Party. That's my biggest point. Democrat Party want people dependent on the system. Who's going to be more dependent on the system? A low-skilled immigrant, a low-skilled migrant, or a high-skilled migrant? If a migrant from India comes in and he's a software engineer in India and he just immigrated here for a work visa, you can't put that man on poverty. But what about an immigrant coming from Haiti who has no skills whatsoever? His options are limited. And you're just setting these people up to be dependent on the system because it helps meet your ends, not theirs. They came for a better life, and all you're giving them is like you're just conditioning them to be essentially a slave to the system. This is why I equate socialism to slavery, because that's what it is. But yeah, I digress. Let's continue with the video.
You see, Democrats realize that there are more votes in porous borders than there are in wanting to secure the borders. Because after all, they used to sound just like Donald Trump on immigration.
And that's the biggest hypocrisy, right? No liberal journalist is going to point out how, Democrats changed their position. And it's because my biggest issue with American politics, and I think it's because of the fact that American voters don't have a long memory. I think this is the biggest reason why. People have maybe a 2-year memory span about politics. People act like Democrats were always pro-immigration. And all you have to do is look at 1995, what Bill Clinton was saying. Flipped on its head. But no, and then when Republicans get demonized for their position on immigration, no one calls out the fact that, well, years ago you used to say this. Years ago, Joe Biden used to be against busing. But no one's going to remember that. No one's going to call it out. No one, the old heads in the black community is going to call that out. They might talk about the 1994 crime bill because maybe they were personally affected by it. But that's the only thing they'll bring up against Joe Biden. Joe Biden did way more worse stuff. But hey, I digress.
Check out Obama, Clinton, Feinstein, and Harry Reid.
Those who enter the country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law, and they are showing disregard for those who are following the law.
See, this is why my dad voted for Obama. Obama used to make sense. After 2008, Obama didn't make sense anymore.
All Americans,
Craziness.
not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country.
Now Democrats in New York and Massachusetts and Boston are remembering this the hard way. Oh, maybe conservatives that cry about border security, maybe they aren't xenophobic. Maybe they have a case. They got a reason to be. It's like these people, this is my main problem with Democrats. It seems like they don't want to understand an issue until they're personally affected by it. They don't want to understand an issue before they implement their bad policy. Conservatives say, hey, that's going to raise inflation. No, it won't. No, it won't. It happens. Now they got to deal with the mess. When we could have avoided the whole mess if the Democrats actually had to sit and had a bipartisan discussion about the effects these policies will have on the American people, because the whole point of government is to work in the common good of its people. But in Congress, in government today, we have a lot of people that's serving globalist interests. So they don't really have American interest at the top of mind. This is American last policies. But y'all want to demonize a guy because he was real with you. When he saw, hey, African Americans, what you got to lose? When he told you guys, y'all was like, no, that's racist guy. Can't name one thing he did racist. Can't show me one clip. You still holding grudges about some case that happened in New York. But you don't want to look at the effects of the outcome, the positive outcomes you got. Black people had the lowest unemployment comparing to Obama and Donald Trump. You had lower unemployment with Donald Trump than Obama. A president that looked more like you, you had a worse outcome than a president that didn't look like you, but you still worrying about race. You still worrying about how people look. Oh, I only voted for Joe Biden because Kamala's VP. Charlemagne tells his listeners, his viewers. This is why I'm mainly mad at the mainstream media, because I know that when I mention Thomas Sowell, a lot of black people go, who? But if I say Charlemagne, people gonna go, oh, I know that guy. And he has more influence over politics in the black community than Thomas Sowell does, than Larry Elder does, than Candace Owens does. Actually, black community hate Candace Owens because she a black woman, bro. I'm being honest, bro. Like, a lot of people don't like black women because they loud and they're very confrontational, right? No one, everyone's scared of a strong black woman, right? But Candace channeled that same energy for conservative causes, and they hate her guts, right? Those are facts. This is why the black community can be led by the nose, because 90% of black people are falling for the same messaging, because 90% of black people are Democrats or lean Democrat. Black people brag about never voting Republican in their life, and they wonder why they get taken advantage of. Why black progressives on YouTube would complain, black people are in an abusive relationship with the Democratic Party. But you don't know how to make people compete for your vote. You rather not vote than vote Republican, when you can actually bargain and get something for your vote. Because if you don't, like, this is my argument for people who says both sides. If you decide not to vote at all, black people, all you're doing is really hurting the Democratic Party. You're not hurting the Republican Party by not voting for it. My argument is at least get something for it. Use your vote as a bargaining chip to get some priority with the Republican Party. But if you're going to sit back and say, oh, it's both sides, both sides are bad. All right, let's say 90% of black people agree with that. Only the Democratic Party is hurt by that, not the Republican Party. So maybe you could pressure the Democrat Party is doing something for you, but the policies they recommend for your people gives you bad outcomes in the long term. So I don't even think that's a good strategy either. But hey, people, exactly, Peter. It's a long-term strategy, right? Kay Apple says they literally look for people who are able to gain the trust of the people, but are absolutely willing to betray them. Yes, Charlatan. That's what I like to call him. Jesse Jackson. Yes, exactly. That's their playbook. How much you willing to pay me to get these black folk to pretty much civil rights leaders in 2023? The NAACP is not fighting for the interests of black people. They're merely a middleman to guide the black people like sheep to the slaughter to vote Democrat. That's the job of the NAACP. This is why NAACP could put stupid comments like, "Oh, Florida's the worst place to be black," but I'm born and raised in Florida all my life, and this is the best place to be black. To me, Florida is one of the most diverse states in the union, but it's the worst place to be black. Get out of here, cap. And guess what? The dude, one of the presidents of the NAACP, where he live at? He live in Tampa. But it's the worst place to be black. It's the same way the climate change stuff. Oh, flooding, but they're buying beachfront properties. They say one thing, but their actions do another. You follow actions, not words. That's the tip I give the black community. Look at outcomes, not intentions. Right? Fix the schools, get people up to speed, only hire Americans that has been in America for 200 plus years. Why do we have to talk to someone from a foreign country when we call Amazon and other companies? Facts. I don't know why. These multinational companies, this is what I'm saying, is globalism. Essentially, that's what it is. Politics is no longer, in my view, about Democrat and Republican. It's about globalist and nationalist, aka, hey, to me, you're a nationalist if you care about what's best for American. Like, if you believe countries should do what's best in their own best interest and work together if it's a mutually beneficial relationship or a beneficial union or beneficial relationship between the two countries, you're a nationalist. You're a globalist if Russia should sacrifice in the benefit of Ukraine and America. Russia, you should let us put nuclear warheads in Ukraine. Don't worry about your interest. We need to worry about the world's interest. No common sense individual do that. If I told you, hey, you got to give me all your money for my best interest because I have it worse than you because I have a certain level of melanin than you, people gonna be like, hell no. Why should I donate all my money to you? For what? I was never a slave owner. He was never a slave. Why should I give money to him? But they expect countries to do that. It's so baffling, these globalists. That's why I say globalists are egotistical in a way. Because they expect people to sacrifice for their best interest, for how they think things should be, even if it's at the expense of a country. And this is why we got the war with Russia. I digress.
The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers.
I think we can enforce our borders. I think we should enforce our borders.
If making it easy to be an illegal alien isn't enough, how about offering a reward for being an illegal immigrant?
Okay, Apple, I agree. Capitalism is supposed to be a voluntary exchange, not oligarchs buying political puppets. But that's what happens when you mix government with business. You get corporatism or cronyism. And that's a form of socialism, by the way, if anyone is asking. That's a form of socialism. That's not capitalism. Capitalism is a complete free market. You fail, you got the freedom to try, freedom to sell, freedom to buy, and freedom to fail, right? And the minute you remove one of that, it's not capitalism anymore. At least not free market capitalism, right? And I believe capitalism should have some constraints. End of the day, I believe the government is supposed to only regulate, aka set the rules. Hey, these are the rules all the businesses play with. No special treatment, no subsidies, nothing. Hey, here's the general rules. Don't defraud your customers, right? If your product causes harm to the customer is liable to sue you. And you only should be focused on profits, not political causes, not pushing ESG, not trying to change the world. This is why I kind of want policies against donor class. Like, corporations can't donate to political actions. Individuals can. Like, if you're a CEO, you can donate to your causes, but you can't use your company platform to push political views. That's one regulation I'll add, because I see regulation as setting the rules, right? My argument has always been, I view the government as the referee. And how would you feel when the referee is making calls for the other team, but he's not making the same calls for you? You're going to get pissed. And that's what's going on in our economy today. And that's socialism. Socialism, special interest groups get to decide, oh, who wins, who loses. That's what's going on. There's a private and public relationship going on in our current situation, our current politics today. President Biden, what do you have to say about Hawaii fire? Jono, no comment. Joe Biden, of course, he don't care. He's a Joe Biden's a globalist. Joe Biden's he works with the World Economic Forum. Joe Biden, if you want to do your research about this, Joe Biden has a committee, I forgot, with CEOs, and they replace the use of shareholders, aka you're accountable to people who actually invested in your company, to stakeholders. You're accountable to global interests, to multiple people. You get me? There's a saying that they say, if you're accountable to everybody, you're accountable to nobody, because everybody has a conflict of interest. Americans have a conflict of interest with Ukrainians. But if your company says, I have to take into account all shareholders who use our products, Ukrainians and Americans, there's going to be a conflict of interest. So when a corporation do something like donate millions and billions of dollars to Ukraine, and Americans get mad, they're going to be like, well, Ukraine's our shareholders. They're our stakeholders. We got to look out for their interests too, not just Americans. That's the game they're trying to play. Globalism. This is the politics of today. RFK, left-wing populist. Donald Trump, Vivek, I'll put Vivek in this, right-wing populist. Populists have one thing in common between the left and the right. They have policies centered at the interests of the American people. You may not agree with the solutions or their approach, but they have one common goal: the betterment of Americans' interests. That's it. Push American interest. But what we have in establishment politics today, we got Nikki Haley wanted to continue the war because they benefit from what? A globalist agenda. That's the establishment. The establishment is globalism. But I digress. Let's run through these points real quick because I got to wrap up in like 20 minutes.
No sane country would do that, right?
Number 5, the Democrats' hostility towards the police. All these false accusations of institutional racism do one thing: cause the cops to pull back, causing crime to go up. It's called the Ferguson effect.
Well, the Ferguson effect is the twin phenomenon of officers backing off of proactive policing and the resulting increase in crime.
Heather McDonald, she has a new book called When Race Trumps Merit. Great book, and she got her facts straight. I'm just saying, like, a lot of the stuff she calls out, like well supported data. I'll recommend anyone to look at her work if you want to get the statistics, the data behind what actually happens between racial inequality. But I digress.
Last year, we had the largest one-year increase in homicide in nearly a half century. The vast majority of the victims of that homicide increase have been Black. The reason for this crime increase, I believe, is that officers are living today under a false and dangerous narrative that says that they are shot through with systemic racism, that we're living through an epidemic of racially biased police shootings, and that the type of proactive policing that I think is responsible for a 20-year crime decline that this nation has enjoyed is under attack as racially oppressive.
And here's the facts about that racial, over policing. If you look, all you have to do is police have a lot of stats backing up their over policing. One over policing policy, and then I think I'll just continue because I kind of want to speed through this video and give my final thoughts. One over policing data point that they have is that criminals tend to break laws. Duh, Kenny, duh. Here's a caveat. Because criminals tend to break laws, they tend to be irresponsible with vehicle registration, right? Having the expired license, like renewing their expired licenses. So usually when a cop pulls over someone with an expired license, there's a high probability that person also has a warrant out for their arrest. Ding, 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 right? Criminals, if you get pulled over for speeding, there's a high statistical chance that you also have a previous criminal record. right? There's another policy too in place, right? And this is just in general, right? Because black people like to make this argument, oh, police was pulling me over while black, right? That's the common, oh, this is why black people get pulled over more than other races of people. In the daytime, black people don't get pulled over as much. But during nighttime, aka when most people do most reckless driving, I'm from Miami. No, look, Miami got some of the worst traffic, and car insurance is expensive in Miami because there's so many accidents that happen. I hate driving at night when I used to live in Miami because that's where all the reckless drivers come out. Guess who gets pulled over more at night? Black people. Guess who gets more speeding tickets as well? Black people. Because black people on average drive at a higher speed than any other race of people in America. So if I'm a police and I'm doing my job, pulling over people who are speeding, most of the statistical chance is they'll be disproportionately black. That's just facts. That's data. I'm not making it up. I'm not lying. And if you're a black person through your own personal experience, you know this true. Don't play with me. We know this true. We drive faster than other people. Facts. And we get into more accidents. But oh, I'm driving while black. But you don't want to admit you're breaking the law. You're doing 60 and a 40. Of course you're gonna get pulled over. But you want to get mad at the cops. Oh, you're pulling me over because I'm black. Looking for external reasons for why negative things happen to you. And this is a habit that black people needs to break in 2023 if they want to move forward. I'm done.
Number 4, Democrats' job.
K Apple, I want to respond to your question. So please read The Color of Communism. I read something called Naked Communist, and I understand why a lot of Marxists are using the race narrative because it's essentially an extension of the class warfare, right? Racial warfare, and unlike class warfare, Marxists can use the racial warfare more effectively because those things you cannot change. You'll always be black. You were born black. You'll die black. So they can always use those immutable traits as a form of conflict because communists believe in what? The revolution, right? Destroying everything and then creating a new system in its wreckage. It's more effective if you use race than class because with class, oh, I can make this poor person rich. So they won't hate me anymore. They'll be part of my class again. But if you make it racial, no matter what happens, this person will always be black. This person will always be white. So yes, because the whole point, yeah, exactly. Yes, I'm glad you see my point. Because the whole point of communism is to start a revolution. That's all they care about. The revolution is a means to an end to destroy the current system it stands upon today. But I digress. Let's run through it. We got 4 more points left.
Killing policies. As my dad used to always say, I never got a job from a poor person. Let's just take one example.
Facts.
The ever-increasing minimum wage.
Thus, the consequences of minimum wage rates have been almost wholly bad, to increase unemployment and to increase poverty. Moreover, the effects have been concentrated on the groups that the do-gooders would most like to help. The people who have been hurt most by minimum wage laws are the blacks. I have often said that the most anti-Negro law on the books of this land is the minimum wage rate.
If minimum wages can make people richer...
The unions we're talking about.
Well, if unions can make people richer, well, all you have to do is tell people in Bangladesh, why don't you unionize and demand a higher wage? You can be rich like the United States.
Number 3.
Bro, when people put out this narrative like tax the rich, like this is my point about people don't understand opportunity cost. People don't understand a mental model. And this is one caveat I like to kind of push in politics because political science, it lacks a lot of methods and methodologies of testing ideas the way that other sciences have. Computer science has this, like other forms of science have this, physics, you name it, the empirical method. And we don't do the same thing in political sciences that I recognize. Like we do a lot of theory-based things. We do a lot of rationalism in political science and not enough empiricism, right? We don't test these ideas. Okay, what are the outcomes of these ideas? Oh, is this a favorable outcome for most Americans? No. Minimum wage kills jobs, right? Don't Americans need jobs to create? And end of the day, it's at-will employment, right? If someone offers you $5 an hour and another job offers you $10 an hour, we assume, hey, if this company wants to compete and get workers, they have to raise their minimum wage, aka make the wages compete for the workers. This is going to naturally raise wages. And also minimum wage laws. This is why big businesses support Democrats. Another little caveat for you here. The reason big businesses donate and support Democrats is because big businesses are more able to absorb the extra cost of minimum wage, but small businesses aren't. If you're a black person, if you're looking at this video, 9 times out of 10, if you want to start a business, it's more expensive for you. You're coming from poverty. Minimum wage hurts you and hurts the poor people's ability to start their own businesses because there's a lot of regulation, a lot of upfront costs. Essentially, Democrat regulation acts as a gatekeeper for newer small businesses to come up and challenge the big and established businesses. And this is why black people don't lift themselves out of poverty. This is why they want to hate capitalism when what they really hate is the regulations surrounding capitalism. I digress. Let's keep going.
The Great Recession. The Great Recession was really an affirmative action recession. How so? Because of
I like this point. I'm not gonna cut this off video, but I want to give my Larry Elder's going to outline how affirmative action sets up black people for failure, because affirmative action was playing a part into black people getting home loans that they couldn't afford to pay. And when the recession hit, they suffered mightily from it. I digress. Appreciate you, Peter. Hope you're having a good day. Kenny, this has been great. You're on point, plus effective and efficient. I hope the channel gets bigger. I wish you 10 times the amount of people was watching. I'm just going to keep pushing, man. I try not to worry about the outcomes. I only can focus on what I can control, and that's just delivering my commentary and content. Let's continue with the video.
Pressure put on banks, literally a gun to their head. They lowered lending standards to the point where virtually anybody who could fog up a mirror was able to buy a house. A disproportionately large number of people who never should have bought homes bought them, and when the inevitable recession came, they lost everything, including the money they put into their homes. Peter Wollaston is a Republican member of the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission set up by Congress to look into the origins of the Great Recession. Here's what he said.
Without the government's housing policy, there would never have been a financial crisis. That's not exactly the same thing as saying that government housing policy caused the financial crisis. It's stating it another way, and that is, if we hadn't had the government's housing policy, that is, but for the government's housing policy, there wouldn't have been a financial crisis.
The subprime mortgage was essentially invented after the 1995 amendments to the Community Reinvestment Act, which put a gun to the head of all lenders, banks and non-banks. It said, you must make subprime loans, below prime loans at favorable interest terms to low-income people, to downright poor people, to immigrants, to Latinos, etc. No, I want to finish this point. Sorry. I want to get this out on the table. It's been bugging me for a long time. Jerry Boyer is the only one that got this story right. This meant that, in fact, if these lenders did not make these subprime loans, their business plans would be disrupted. They couldn't acquire. They couldn't merge. They couldn't go into new markets.
Effectively making the government come in and threaten, hey, you do something I don't like, I'm gonna come in and bash your company, right? But Democrats are fighting for the little guy, to set themselves up for failure. That's what the Democrats Party done. And then they want to run on this issue. Oh, we can fix the economy, we could do this, and to put their guys in, and to continue on the destruction that they just left, to justify more government control. This is why government seems to get bigger and bigger, no matter who's in office, because of these policies. Clinton pushed this. Gave this policy teeth. If you discriminate against black people, if you deny black people alone, the government's coming after you. And then essentially this is how we got 08. And then the Obama wants to bail out the banks. Too big to fail. But this is who black people keep rewarding with their vote. You let the people who essentially led you down this path of where you're at today for 50 plus years, and you want to get mad at people like me who question the popular narrative in the black community that you ain't black if you don't vote Democrat. But this is the results they get you. 1995. This is a year before I was born. I'm a 96 baby. A year before I was born. This is what they did. You see the setup? Lowering the standards for you, right? You get in. Oh, I got the house that I wanted at a higher interest rate than normal. I'm struggling to pay it off. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. But then you want to cry it's racism is why black people are held back economically. And then when '08 comes, you want to be like, damn, there should have been a policy that banned banks from lending to people who had no ability to pay for it. Ding, 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 ding. They were already doing that. Capitalism was already doing that because they know how to manage their resources more. They have the data. They have the stats. But the government forced them to give you a loan. And you put yourself in a bigger mess than before you found it. If the government never got involved, the bank would have denied you and you would have never put yourself in a situation where it could economically destroy you. And this is the problem I'm talking about. The road to hell is lit with good intentions. I don't care what was Bill Clinton's intentions. I'm looking at the outcome of the policy. And it hurt black people more than it helped black people. It helped black people in the short term to get what they want, what they felt like they were entitled to. I got a house, y'all. But they couldn't maintain the house. And then it set them up for a bigger financial hole. And then Democrats will run on that and say, well, we can fix the problem. But you put me in the problem in the first place. This is why my dad was a Republican. But I digress.
And it gave inordinate power to local community groups like the Acorn Group to essentially rat out the lender and tell the Fed and the controller of the currency that you guys, they're not doing what you want them to do. So guess what? With the era of easy money, that was like pouring gasoline and lighting a match to the Community Reinvestment Act, which set the stage for these unbelievably stupid subprime mortgages.
Number two.
A liberal always trying to make excuses for their bad failings. Oh, you don't think black people should deserve a loan? You don't think black people should deserve a house? A house is a part of the American dream. But what's a part? Is owning a house that you can't afford to keep really an American dream, or will become an American nightmare? And that's what the recession showed. Their house became an American nightmare because you didn't have the income. You lost your job. You lied about how much you was actually making. But do we learn from this? No, we don't. We think giving special treatment for hiring, for school admissions, is getting so bad now these race hustlers out here are trying to remove the bar exam so more black people can get in because tests are racist, apparently. Instead of telling black people, hey, get better. Nah, cry about your victimhood, you being discriminated against by your test, and remove the test. Remove the standard. I don't want to rise to the standard. Remove it. Craziness. Right? And then they play the race card for votes. Let's continue.
Incessant playing of the race card for votes.
Let us say with one voice the words of James Cleveland's great freedom hymn. I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy. I don't believe he brought me this far.
And black people will reward her with votes. Hot sauce in my purse. Hey Hillary, you got hot sauce in your purse, swag? Charlemagne, dumb. Oh, bro, don't get me started on Charlemagne, bro. Oh, they gonna say you pandering for black people. Is it working? It seemed to work. Who won the black vote in 2016? Hillary. This is what black people reward. Oh, she acting like us. Yeah, K Apple says, hey, sounds like your dad was a critical thinker and an excellent heretic. My dad couldn't vote in, I forgot when my dad immigrated here. I think it was 1992 under Bill Clinton. And then I guess my dad was observing politics. I don't know. My dad couldn't vote until 2000 with Bush. He voted for Bush both times, I think, 2000 and 2004. And then he voted for Obama. And then he found out Obama, he wasn't about hope and change. He was about everything to stay the same. And then there was a taxi, my dad used to be a taxi driver. And he kind of put into me, say, hey, Kenny, man, don't listen to what people say. Look at what they do. Right. And he kind of made me question this narrative like, hey, you don't vote for, Democrats. Right. Democrats are all talk. That's how my dad will say it. He will say it in a deeper voice than I do. But I can't do it right now because I'll kill my throat trying to mimic my dad's voice. But he said Democrats are all talk. They say hope and change, but everything stayed the same. They push policies to get harder. And my dad, because my dad was voting Republican already. So my dad was like I'll say a right-leaning independent. But my dad was like, no, I'll never vote for a Democrat again. I gave him a chance. And look, like my life was worse. And he told me, hey, like don't sit here and follow the narrative. Because I feel like my dad felt like, I don't know. My dad, I think he was trying to warn me because he felt like he got pressured kind of because, first black president, we're trying to make history. So my dad kind of fell into that hype train, and then seeing the negative consequences of that choice, he kind of told me and passed it on to me, say, hey, like, don't fall for the same thing. Don't feel pressured to vote for somebody if you rationally think this is not a good choice to make, right? Bush fooled me too. Yeah. And most people say like the way Bush was running, if you look back, he ran like a Democrat almost, like in a way. But hey, like, so, they say wise men learn from the mistakes of other people, right? Smart men learn from their own mistakes. Wise people will learn from the mistakes of others. So I took my dad's advice to heart. So, and here I am making political content. But hey, I digress. Let's wrap up this video. I think there's 2 points left, and then I'll wrap up my final thoughts at the end of this clip.
Look at what they value and look at their budget and what they're proposing. Romney wants to he said in the first 100
Welcome back, Jonathan.
days, he's going to let the big banks once again write their own rules. Unchain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
This country, though we may not be in El Paso, Texas, is still racist at its foundation, at its core, and throughout this system.
I think black people fall for confirmation bias, right? They like to hear what they want to hear, and I think this is why it gives them so much commitment to the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party say what they want to hear, right? And essentially, it's like parroting back what you think that people want to hear, right? Democrats play this to a T, and I think this is what gets them the black vote. They kiss the black people's A instead of telling the black people the reality. There's a big quote, Thomas Sowell, another. This is why I like Thomas Sowell. He dropped gems. All right. This man says, hey, forgot the point already. I forgot the quote. Damn, I had the quote in my head. If you want to help people, you tell them the truth. If you want to help yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. And this is the Democratic Party. That quote synonymizes the Democratic Party. Tell the people what they want to hear so I can help myself. And this is what Obama did. But I digress.
Are they in some sort of time warp? Did they sleep through the fact that a black man got elected and reelected president of the United States of America? And the fact that there were 700 counties who voted for Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012, 200 of them switched to Trump in 2016.
That was my dad. My dad switched from Obama to Trump.
When were they bitten by the racist radioactive spider? And guess what? The town that most voted for Donald Trump was Abilene, Texas, 80%. According to the 2010 census, it's 75% white. Guess which town just voted for their first black mayor? Abilene, Texas.
And here's the funny part Democrats never want to recognize. They don't want to recognize that the first black politicians in U.S. history came from the Republican Party. And the Democrats didn't start adding black politicians to their party until like 1935, if I got my dates correct. They don't want to bring up that history, but they want to make up this fake narrative about, they're gonna put you back in chains. All right, but you don't want to mention your party's history putting black people in chains. I mean, you started it. But yeah, I digress, bro. I digress.
Orlando Patterson is a Harvard sociologist and a Democrat. Here's what he said almost 30 years ago. America is now the least racist white majority society in the world.
The race hustlers ordered to listen to that.
Has a better record of legal protection of minorities than any other society, white or black, and offers more opportunities to a greater number of black persons than any other society, including all of Africa.
Where's the lie? Where's the lie? This is the joke. This is the joke I have when people like when I say, hey, America used to be black people's greatest oppressor, but now it's its greatest liberator. People will call me names for that. But then I ask them, name me a place better to be black. And if you can name me one, why your ass ain't over there? That's like my first go-to argument. Because they know like where some of the richest black people exist is here in the United States of America. But they don't want to acknowledge that. They want to keep complaining about the best place to be black in America, when they got nothing to compare it to. The reason why they're criticizing America with is perfection. But in reality, perfection does, look, I don't suffer from imagination. Perfection is an imagination. Let's look at the reality here. And the reality here is America's the best place to be black. That's the reality. But they want to keep complaining. Oh, it's not progressing enough. Because they're comparing America to perfection. And this is where all this criticism is coming from. Oh, name a country that didn't practice slavery. Name me one. Every country in the world practiced slavery. But for some reason, there's a special sin exclusively to America. Craziness. But I digress.
End of quote. And number one, Democrats are the pro-abortion party. Nationally, black women terminate pregnancies at far higher rates than other women as well. In 2014, 36% of all abortions,
I think now in 2020 it's 40%, but I could be wrong,
were performed on black women, who are just 13% of the female population, end of quote.
Is abortion racist because it disproportionately affects black babies? Abortion disproportionately kills black babies at a 40% clip. Is that systematic racism? Because apparently the new definition of racism is if it disproportionately affects black people. And last time I checked, you're essentially, this is one of the reasons why the black community, the black population has been stagnating. It's been hovering around 14% for decades, for centuries. Why? Because of abortion. My argument as a black conservative, and this is why abortion hurts the black community, is that if 1972 we had banned abortion, let's play a hypothetical. Let's say I had it my way, 1972, we banned abortion. And people still had the babies at the same rate they did. The black community would have been the second largest population in America today. You don't think that comes with a lot of political power? Uh-oh. Now the pro-blacks are going to get mad. The fake pro-blacks are going to get mad. Abortion hurts the black community. It doesn't help the black community. But black women are making a selfish choice in my eyes, right? Because you don't put pro-blacks say, oh, I do what's good for my people. Abortion is not good for your people. Essentially, it's population control. Racist eugenicist Margaret Sanger called black people the weeds of this country. She believed that if you were genetically inferior, and there was this racist idea that black people were genetically inferior to white people, they wanted to exterminate your ass. They thought you was unworthy, incapable, right? And what black people doing? Playing right along with what the racists want them to do. And I have this theory in my head, and this is going to go to my point earlier, but let's continue with the video.
Do you know who else agrees that the Democratic Party made a mistake in becoming the pro-abortion party? Former Democratic President Jimmy Carter. I've signed a public letter calling for the Democratic Party at the next convention to espouse my position on abortion, which is to minimize the need, requirement for abortion, and limit it only to women whose life are in danger or who are pregnant as a result of rape or incest. I think if the Democratic Party would adopt that policy, that would be acceptable to a lot of people who are now estranged from our party because of the abortion issue, end of quote.
Yeah, like there is dogmatic. Abortion is dogmatic in the Democratic Party. There's a group called Pro-Life Democrats for this specific reason. But what's the Democratic Party platform right now? It's abortion or you're a dino, a Democrat in name only. That's the divide in the Democratic Party. But these Democrats, they care about power. They know it pulls well with single women. And in our society today, catering to single women wins you elections. Single women care a lot about abortion. But they don't, to me, I think it's because they don't have an actual view of what abortion, the reality of abortion is. And I think this is what's driving them to support abortion, because they have a false perception about it. But I digress.
Jimmy Carter said this.
I have had a problem with abortion, and this has been a long-time problem of mine. I have a hard time believing that Jesus, for instance, would approve abortions.
Those are 10 reasons I can think of.
So yeah, that's the 10 reasons that Larry Elder outlines for why blacks should leave the Democratic Party. And the point I was trying to go with the whole abortion thing is, I think a lot of, my argument is my long comment that never ends. It's fine. I appreciate the comments. Peter is my first name. And my thing with the abortion thing is, I believe that if a lot of women, before they get an abortion, they had to see an ultrasound of their offspring, I think a lot of them wouldn't do it. And I think there's stats to back that up. Like if women see the ultrasound before they have to commit an abortion, a sizable amount of them don't go through with their abortion. And that shows you that, hey, like, it's a life. You can't sit here and deny, oh, it's not a life, because only humans can come from humans. So we know it's a human life. And to call it a fetus, which in my eyes, scientifically, you're just naming the human development cycle, and you're trying to use that as dehumanizing language, right? It's semantics at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what you call it. If it's a human life, it deserves human rights. That's my position. Right? So it's crazy. And then even from a functional political sense, it hurts your people. Oh, you're trying to stagnate the population? Because at the end of the day, it's easier. What's easier to control? A population that's the second largest population in America, or one of the smallest populations, a minority group. It works to the Democrats' benefit. And how convenient that is. Unintentional or intentional. Right? A small population is easier to have them dependent and controlled, right? 90% clip. If the black community was bigger, I don't think you'll be getting 90% votes out of the black community. A lot of these things help the Democratic Party to stay in power. How convenient. Every good thing they do, it seems they get some political advantage for doing it. Oh, path to citizenship. Oh, stats show that all first-time migrants have a favorable view of the Democratic Party. How convenient, right? But if it was a bunch of Cubans that vote Republican, I bet you they'll be spitting a different tune. And that's my argument. It's merely political. It's not they doing this out of kindness of your heart. So I don't understand why black people, or a lot of people who seem to vote Democrat, have this emotional connection with Democrats when it's like politics is all only supposed to be about business. Hey, your policies don't really help me in the long term. The outcomes your policy will generate is likely to do this to me, and it's going to negatively affect my people. Can you change your position? How are you going to deal with that? But no, they switch the game. They're like, no. Don't vote for me on policy. Vote for me because I make you feel good. And this is what led to the downfall of America. All right. Just because it feels good doesn't mean it is good. And that's the narrative we fell into. Trump don't feel good, but hey, his policies was good for us. So this is the game they play. They project perfection. Like we seriously believe politicians are perfect people. It becomes a narrative game at this point. They got media making these people look good and competent. Biden stumbles and falls, the media runs cover for him. Trump says something out of context, or you quote him out of context. Oh, make him seem like he meant that. Vivek comes out and calls you out for your racial narrative and compares it to Grand Wizards of the KKK. And oh no, it was a racist statement. It was a bad statement, but can't tell you why. He goes and he challenges these people. Why is it a bad thing? Why is it? Why is it okay for her to say, Brown, we no longer tolerate black faces that's not speaking in a black voice? What does that mean? That means you're telling me something about myself because of my skin color. How is that not racist? How is that not something that KKK believed? KKK believed that you were genetically inferior because you were black. Therefore, they were justified in killing you, lynching you. Why you shouldn't vote? Because they think you're going to be a politician and you be eating fried chicken on top of the White House. They didn't think you had any manners. A prejudice against you because of your skin color. These woke Democrats are practicing the same thing. Why they're allowed to do it and we're not, and we don't call it out. Media goes into a hissy fit trying to defend their comments. Craziness. But hey, that's the reality of our political theater. I appreciate you guys for watching the stream. I know I kind of felt like I was all over the place, but as always, I always appreciate you guys for commenting, for watching. Thanks for taking your time to spend 2 hours with me on this long live stream. So these are my 10 reasons why I believe anyone could or should vote for the Republican Party. I would like to hear your thoughts in the comment section. If you're watching this on the replay, don't forget to like the video on your way out. I really do appreciate all the support, all the comments. I've been watching you guys, and I really do appreciate the support. I'm doing okay. I hope you guys have a blessed weekend. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I appreciate you guys. I hope to see you guys on the next live stream. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and take care, guys. I'll catch you guys on the next live stream. Peace.